Okay, we're back here this morning. Let's look at one. Looks like a little trigonometry here. They give us an interesting looking picture. Looks like a rectangle. Label some sides. We got a 300, a 2000, a 1500, and it wants to know what this angle is here. And they give us some of these ugly expressions here. So see what you can do with this. This is on an ACT. The SAT will not test this. This is an ACT concept. See if you can make sense of it. We'll pause the video. We'll come back and we'll solve it together. Okay, so we're back. And the first thing you always want to do is you want to look at what they give you, and fill it in. So we've already filled in that that's 2,000. 300 across the top. Obviously the picture is not drawn to scale. I can't really draw too well, as many of you know. And they tell us that CD is 1500, which doesn't look right, but we'll just go with it, which would make this piece, right, D to E, looks like that would be 500, right, because it's just 2,000 down. And they did tell us this was a rectangle, so that's a right angle. Now, I think when you're stuck, I think you always just look at the answers and use them as your guide. It looks like we're going to have to do something with sine, cosine, or tangent, which should probably give us some reason to look at this, to look at some SOHCAHTOA. And I'm also just going to fill in that this is 300. Okay, so the SOHCAHTOA, a lot of kids get a little confused with this. The first thing that you always want to do, always, you want to figure out which angle am I using. We'll call that the reference angle. And I apologize if you cannot read my chicken scratch, but it looks like since we're using this angle, they put the question mark there, B is our reference angle. So everything is going to be based off of this angle. And then the second thing I want to do is I just want to label my sides. And I do that because that will allow me to determine whether I want to use sine, cosine, or tangent, right? And so we should know by now, right, sine equals opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, and tangent is opposite over adjacent. So we have three sides, opposite, adjacent, and a hypotenuse. Let's label those. So I would take my reference angle, I would just go straight across. And whatever that side is, I'm going to label that the opposite side. And I think everyone knows, right, if you find the 90-degree angle, if I go straight across from that, right, that's going to be the hypotenuse. And whatever's left, obviously there's only one side left, that's going to have to be the adjacent side. Okay, so once you do that, really you ask yourself, which sides do I have? Typically, sometimes you want to solve for a side, so we would incorporate that side. But in this case, what sides do I have? And as I look at it, right, I have the adjacent side, that's 300. I have the opposite side, that's 500. So I have O opposite and A adjacent. Geez, which one do I use? Sine, cosine, tangent? Well, if I have the O and the A, I guess I'm going to use tangent. Alright, so worst case scenario now, once you figure that, you have a 50-50 chance here. So just remember, it's always tangent of the angle, which in this case we don't know what the angle is. So we'll just call it B. And that's equal to the opposite side, which is 500, divided by the adjacent side, right, which is 300. And you can probably see you could take the zeros and just cancel them out. So we get a 5/3. So now you're like, all right, I know the tangent of the angle is 5/3, and I look and I see this answer with a -1, and I see this one is -1, and that's 3/5. Which one is it? Because I think I remembered -1 means inverse. Well, it does. The -1 means inverse, but remember, all the -1 the arc or the inverse is used for, it's always used to get the angle. The one thing you do not want to do, which they will try to bait you into doing this, when you think of inverse, you think of flipping it upside down. So they're going to catch people taking the 5/3 and flipping it upside down. You don't want to do that. All this will do, and it's typically you do it in your calculator, would give you the actual angle we're looking for. So, once you get tangent of B to be 5/3, that's what you got to go with. In cases like this on the ACT, just ignore the -1. Just pretend it's not there. So we know the tangent of the angle is 5/3. If we wanted to figure out what the angle was in our calculator, that's what we would enter. But for now, that's what we're looking for.